Okay, and now it is the part we've all been waiting for, our favorite reoccurring segment. Tucker Carlson is trash. The reason it's a reoccurring segment is because Tucker Carlson continuously proves himself to be trash. If you don't believe me, we are going to review his new spat that he's been having with Senator Tammy Duckworth, and then we're going to explain to you why. It's always my favorite part. But first, I thought maybe we would take a second and we would review very quickly who Tucker Carlson is, in case you just crawled out from underneath a white nationalist rock and are new to the world, or you don't know who Senator Tammy Duckworth is, because she's a female and a Democrat, and, why would you bother? And if you fall into either of the camps who would find either of those last two statements to be viable and honest and not sarcastic, then trust me, you are the one who needs to watch this video. Here we go. Let's bring it up. Real quickly, Tucker Carlson is currently a talking head on Fox News. Tucker Carlson's father was the director of Voice of America, the president for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and a United States ambassador. Tucker Carlson's mother, Patricia Carolyn Swanson, heiress to the Swanson Enterprises and Swanson Frozen Family Dinner fortune. Tucker Carlson was raised in bougie part of California. He was then sent to a private boarding school for high school and then college. After that, he was given a multitude of opportunities to work as a writer and a TV analyst. Now, to be fair, Tucker Carlson, I have been told, has a modicum of writing skill. With that being said, there are a ton of people who have more than a modicum of writing skill who don't get the same opportunities that Tucker Carlson did. Just so you know who Tucker Carlson is. Just Senator Tammy Duckworth. Let's see. Following in the footsteps of her father, who served in World War II and the Vietnam War, and ancestors who have served in every major conflict since the Revolutionary War, Duckworth joined Army Reserve Officer Training Corps in 1990 as a graduate student at George Washington University, became a commissioned officer in the U.S. Army Reserve, chose to fly helicopters because it was one of the few combat jobs open to women. As a member of the Army Reserve, she went to flight school, transferred to the Army National Guard, entered the Illinois National Guard in 96, and worked as a staff supervisor at a Rotary International headquarters in Illinois, and was the coordinator for the Center for Nursing Research at Northern Illinois University. Two distinctly different people who took two distinctly different paths into the limelight, so to speak. Duckworth is working towards a PhD in political science at Northern Illinois University when she was deployed to Iraq in 2004. She lost her right leg near the hip and her left leg below the knee from injuries sustained on November 2004 when the UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter she was co-piloting was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade fired by Iraqi insurgents. She was the first American female double amputee from the Iraq War. The explosion severely broke her right arm and tore tissue from it, necessitating major surgery to repair it. Duckworth received a Purple Heart on December 3rd and was promoted to a major on December 21st at the Walter Reed Army Medical Center, where she was presented with an Air Medal and Army Commendation Medal. The Daughters of the American Revolution erected a statue with Duckworth's likeness and that of the revolutionary Molly Pitcher in Mount Vernon, Illinois in 2011. The statue was dedicated in honor of female veterans. You will note, as I read Tucker Carlson's background to you, Tucker Carlson never enlisted, never served. Now, I want you to be able to compare those two people in your head as I bring you to this story. After Donald Trump's unhinged white nationalist speech at Mount Rushmore on July 4th, when he stood on land that America had previously ceded to Native Americans, and then probably stole from them and then carved old white people's faces into the side of a mountain there. Tucker Carlson was out carrying water for the white nationalist in chief, going hard, slamming all his detractors. And in the middle of his speech, he decided to take a shot at Tammy Duckworth. This is what that looked like.
But how about the actual presidential candidate, whoever Biden picks as his VP running mate? Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois is a top contender for the job. You're not supposed to criticize Tammy Duckworth in any way because she once served in the military. Most people just ignore her. But when Duckworth does speak in public, you're reminded what a deeply silly and unimpressive person she is. Here's Tammy Duckworth from over the weekend telling us it's time to get rid of George Washington.
I know that you support changing the name of military bases named after Confederate leaders, but there are leaders like George Washington and Thomas Jefferson who were slave owners, and some people are demanding that their monuments come down too. So in your view, where does it end? Should statues, for example, of George Washington come down?
Well, let me just say that we should start off by having a national dialogue on it at some point.
A national dialogue, please.
So, Tucker said that Tammy Duckworth said something that she didn't say. That's quite surprising. Please continue, Tucker.
They're not looking for any kind of a colloquy. What they want is a soliloquy. We speak, you shut up and listen. So what to make of all of it?
You do know a national dialogue isn't one person talking and everybody shutting up and listening, right, Tucker? You would think with that bougie A+ education that your family bought for you that you would know what words mean. I guess not, but please, let's continue.
Of this. Well, it's long been considered out of bounds to question a person's patriotism. It's a very strong charge, and we try not ever to make it.
Other than making that charge against every single person who is either a Democrat, a female of color in government, or anybody that Tucker Carlson doesn't agree with, in which case then Tucker Carlson, yes, is indeed the first person to question people's patriotism. Hold on, let's see.
But in the face of all of this, the conclusion can't be avoided. These people actually hate America. There's no...
It looks like he just did question everybody's patriotism, which he just said they don't like to do, but go ahead, Tucker.
About that. And yet, paradoxically, at the same time, they desperately want to control America more than anything.
Yes, Tammy Duckworth wants to control America by having a national dialogue about statues. That's her controlling things. But did you notice how short that Tammy Duckworth clip was? It turns out, Parker Malloy at Media Matters for America actually pulled this. There was an actual clip.
Statues, for example, of George Washington come down?
Well, let me just say that we should start off by having a national dialogue on it.
You ready?
At some point, but right now we're in the middle of a global pandemic, and one of our countries that are opposed to us, Russia, has put a bounty on American troops' heads. What really struck me about the speech that the president gave at Mount Rushmore was that he spent more time worried about honoring dead Confederates than he did talking about the lives of the 130,000 Americans who lost their lives to COVID-19, or by warning Russia off of the bounty they're putting on Americans' heads. I mean,
that sounds like a drastically different answer than the one that Tucker Carlson just played a short clip of to make it sound like Tammy Duckworth was pushing to have statues of George Washington ripped down because he's traitorous. Turns out she didn't say that. And it turns out that Tucker Carlson just took a tiny little schmeckle of something she said and then created an entire diatribe out of it. Now, you would think that calling a U.S. war veteran, somebody with a Purple Heart, who had both of her legs amputated, and now serving as a United States Senator, and you go all in on them and you catch a lot of hell, maybe, just maybe, you'd stand pat or apologize, or I don't know, maybe not stick your foot in your mouth. I mean, this was Tammy Duckworth's sole reply. I mean, it's a valid point, right? But no, Tucker Carlson, because he's Tucker Carlson, decided to do what Tucker Carlson does. And he came back the next night even harder.
Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois watched Trump's speech, or claimed she did. Her summary of it, quote, he spent all his time talking about dead traitors. George Washington, Clara Barton, Jackie Robinson, they are all, according to Tammy Duckworth, dead traitors. Pretty shocking. In case you think we're being unfair here, in the same interview, Senator Duckworth was asked if we should tear down statues to George Washington. Sure, she responded, let's talk about it. We played that tape for you last night, and we noted how grotesque it was. Only someone who...
No, you played a second and a half of it and made it seem grotesque. Mostly because you're trash.
Who hates the country would suggest ripping down monuments to its founder.
Once again, she never suggested ripping down statues of the country's founder. You suggested she said that.
Apparently, Tammy Duckworth saw what we said. She didn't disagree with it exactly. Instead, she questioned our right to criticize her at all, since she was once injured while serving in the Illinois Army National Guard.
No, she said that you should walk a mile in her legs before you question her patriotism. So, yet again, another lie.
That's what passes for an argument in modern identity politics. They don't address the points that you make. They question your right to make them at all.
The point you made was that she said something that she didn't say. That's not a point.
The irony, of course, is that George Washington himself, the dead traitor Tammy Duckworth has such contempt for, also served in the military. Washington spent most of his adult life under arms. He fought in 2 wars. At one point, during the winter of 1777, Washington lost almost a quarter of his entire army to cold and malnutrition. So George Washington paid his dues.
Unlike Tucker Carlson.
He was, as we might say today, a combat veteran.
He
and
was.
By the way, Washington also created the country we live in.
He did.
George Washington was a genuinely great man.
Supposedly,
but to
yes.
morons like Tammy Duckworth, Washington is just some old white guy who needs to be erased.
Once again, Tammy Duckworth didn't say George Washington needs to be replaced or erased. Tammy Duckworth said, in response to a question, maybe we should have a conversation about that after we deal with the fact that there are 130,000 dead, fetid, viral corpses in the street, and that it's been confirmed that Russia is paying a bounty to mercenaries in the Middle East to kill U.S. soldiers. But Tucker Carlson wants to avoid all of that because, God forbid, it reflects poorly on his Lord and Savior Donald Trump. Please, Tucker, continue.
Tear down his statues, rename our capital city Sharpton or Mandela, and let the revolution continue.
Anybody remember Tammy Duckworth saying that we should change the capital to Mandela or anything? No, that didn't happen either.
But hold on, not so fast. Changes that profound deserve a debate, not some fake national conversation where they scream commands at you and you get to obey.
But that's not what she said. Oh, good Lord. Okay. So now you might be asking yourself, why would Tucker Carlson do such a thing? Why, and if you're on the right and you're watching this and you're like, Tucker Carlson's just speaking the truth. Why would Tucker Carlson be making so much noise about something like this? This is the part where I tell you why. Recently, in the last month, a lawsuit was just scuttled. But in that lawsuit that was against Fox News and Tucker Carlson, former Playboy model Karen McDougal, who said that she had an affair with Donald Trump, was paid $150,000 by the National Enquirer for her story, exclusive. Of course, the person who owns the National Enquirer is a close personal friend of Donald Trump, and then promptly sat on the story to make sure it didn't come out during the election. And you might be asking yourself, what does this have to do with Tucker Carlson shitting on the patriotism of US Senator Tammy Duckworth and her Purple Heart? Well, here we go. McDougal was suing Fox because Carlson said this on his show. 2 women approached Donald Trump and threatened to ruin his career and humiliate his family if he doesn't give them money. Now that sounds like classic case of extortion. He led up to that by saying, remember the facts of the story, these are undisputed. McDougal contends he accused her of a crime, and yes, extortion is a crime. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Fox News contends that it doesn't matter if Tucker Carlson accused her of a crime and got his facts wrong, because Tucker Carlson tonight isn't about facts. When the judge asked Fox attorneys, does somebody in Mr. Carlson's position have a duty of inquiry? The answer was no. In other words, Carlson has no responsibility to check the facts before he starts talking on TV. Fox attorneys also argued that McDougal has to prove actual malice because she's a public figure. That's tough to do, even though Carlson spews malice 5 nights a week on his show. The man oozes malice. His behavior is insulting, sexist, and racist. Now, if you don't believe me, let me tell you exactly what was said in court. You ready for this? The Fox News legal team is defending against slander against the slander lawsuit by claiming A, what Carlson says isn't news, B, he doesn't necessarily do any research, and C, what he says isn't necessarily true. This is the affirmative defense brought about by Fox News lawyers. Would a reasonable viewer be coming here to Tucker Carlson and thinking this is where I'm going to be hearing the news of the day? Fox News attorney asked in a hearing on Wednesday. Did you get that? If you watch Carlson's show and think it has anything to do with news, according to Murphy, you're just not that bright. In an earlier court filing, Murphy referred to Tucker Carlson tonight as hyperbolic opinion commentary, not sober, factual reporting. Not a surprise, but the surprise is that the Fox News lawyers openly admitted it. So when you're watching Fox News and you're watching Tucker Carlson and Tucker Carlson's mouth is moving, you are 100% guaranteed that he has no interest in telling the truth or telling you any facts, nor apparently does the company he works for, called Fox News, which has news in the title, apparently they also do not believe that he has any responsibility to give you facts or tell you the truth. This is why Tucker Carlson is on TV slandering potential vice presidential candidates for the Democratic Party, even though they literally gave everything, why Tucker Carlson has given nothing. So your daily reminder, ladies and gentlemen, our friend Tucker Carlson is trash.